Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 1931 Northwest Woodland Drive here in McMinnville. I describe everything as if you're standing in the street facing the front of the home. That's the front door there. Just to the left of the front door, you've got a 3-inch ABS cleanout. Should it ever get hidden, lines up perfectly with the right side of that black frame there. The painted trim lines up perfectly with it. It sits about 16 inches out from the foundation wall. Dropping into a 3-inch ABS cleanout. Water is running. That'll catch up here in just a second. We're running water from the garage sink right now. And I think the line here, right as we drop in, it almost looks like it bumps out to 4-inch. We'll take a second look at that on the way out. It might just be a visual illusion, but... And before the water even catches up here, there it is. Very, very clean flow line. That is exactly how you want your flow line to look right there. That is the mark of people that are doing a good job at not putting cooking oil and grease down the line. There is a little bit in there, don't get me wrong. Relative to most homes, quite a clean line. Just transition to PVC pipe. It looks like there's a little bit of an offset joint there at the transition. We will take a better look at that when the line's drained at the end. The camera hopped over it pretty easily. All right, there's our main there at 48 feet. Yeah, the line actually may have just transitioned to 4-inch at the PVC. We'll see here in just a second. All right, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates on Northwest Woodland Drive. As you face the house, the line pops out of the home just to the left of the door. It then jaunts under the driveway. And where I pick that locate up in the street and turn around and face back of the house, I'm lined right up with the leftmost main driveway panel. You've got about 4 different concrete panels there in the driveway. It's the furthest one to the left. Of the larger size ones anyway. There's a little skinny strip on the far left side of the driveway, not that. Pretty much runs right down the middle of that once the line straightens out. And the pipe here is trickling off. There's just a tiny little bit of water still moving through the line. Come back here and take a look at the offset joint, see how that's looking. When I went over it, did not feel like an outrageously large offset. But we'll see. Offsets are one thing. The other thing I look for to see is if the joint shows any signs of being exposed at the ground. I've done over 25,000 sewer scopes and been a part of a lot of repairs and drain cleaning, and yeah, that offset is tiny. It's very small. In fact, most of the offset is on the far side. My camera is rounding the bend right now. What I'm running into right here is the left side of the pipe. The flow line there is actually still flush. My camera goes through that effortlessly. I don't even have to push on it hard. So at most there, you have got about, my camera head sits about 1/4 inch off the bottom of the pipe. So you've got, it's not even a 1/2 inch offset, it's about 1/4 of an inch. Now that's a long ways off from repair worthy. For an offset that small to contribute to a blockage, you would have to be abusing this line like no tomorrow. You'd have to be flushing stuff down the line that was already going to clog before it got there. And that was just the final little bit that made it clog that much harder, if that makes any sense. You'd have to be abusing this thing very hard. Joint's all intact there. That joint is barely shifted. Anyhow, if you want to keep the line looking nice and clean like this, keep the cooking oil, the grease, bacon grease, all your fats out of the kitchen sink drain. Dispose of them, by wiping out with a paper towel after it's cooled off, or, putting it into a metal can or something of that nature. It mitigates a lot of flow problems. Like I was just saying, I've been doing this a long time, and it's a very common culprit to blockages that result in backups. Now, going under the home here, you've got, I'm going backwards right now. This is not stuff that I can really locate because it's under the house. So to about 11 feet going backwards. We're going to let that water settle in. My camera will sometimes create quite a wake in front of it when I push into water, so we'll see how this looks backing out. My camera is upside down right now. So far, that water line there, right there, it submerges the camera head. So you do have an inch of standing water. So from about 4 feet approximately to 11 feet, going back under the home, you have a belly there that does exceed an inch. And where my typical breaking point is, where I just start to recommend repairs, is once I've got a 5-foot section of pipe with at least an inch of water. These days, about the only time I will ever recommend a repair on a belly that size is when it's close proximity to the home, when it's either immediately outside the house and or underneath it. And this one reaches that threshold. That's not to say the line is not still functioning. It is a functioning line, but it is draining slower than it should. And when I say draining slower, solids are the thing that are going to have a harder time moving through that area. Water will shoot through a belly without much issue as long as there's no obstruction in it at that time. Anyway, the reason for that, if you took that same exact belly and put it 40 feet out from the house, I would never recommend a repair on it in a million years. And the reason for that is if a blockage ever did occur at those distances, unless it's made out of paper towels, a bunch of improper stuff, the head pressure of the water building up behind it, coupled with smooth plastic pipe, is going to break that blockage loose. If you get a decent blockage in a belly under a home like that, you do not have the same level of leeway. It's more likely that it's going to result in the backup, and that head pressure is not going to push things through. So that's a spot there I'm going to recommend a fix on. Again, the line is still a functioning sewer line, but it is draining slower than it should. It's that slower drain that can lead to buildup and blockages if you're not being careful. If for some reason the belly is not corrected, the big thing I tell most people, kind of a simple rule, is treat the line like a septic system. Folded toilet paper only, no wipes, flushable wipes, grease, cooking oil, anything that's going to build up in the line, does not disintegrate easily and readily, is stuff you want to avoid from going down the line, because the reality is anytime you have a belly of that size or larger, it's going to stop up a portion of the solids. Sometimes it's all of them. This one, I don't know if it's going to necessarily everything, but you want whatever it does to get stopped up there, if it does, to be stuff that easily moves on its way or breaks down and disintegrates. Otherwise, if it does get repaired, I do recommend re-scoping to check the work. And in a lot of cases, a lot of this pipe that's on the inside of the home is in place with strapping. It's very common that strapping will stretch, and it's as simple as just adjusting the zip ties or the straps that hold the pipe in place. It's usually not as complicated as an outside repair where you have to dig things up. So, not being under the house, it's hard to say that, but anyway, that's just immediately through the foundation wall, probably about 2 feet or so from where the line leaves the house back in, from 4 to 11 feet there. That's where that belly's at.